Hello everyone, we are back today with another election prediction. We have major news today, and that is that RFK JR has dropped out of the race and has endorsed Trump, which is major blow for the Kamala Harris campaign. We will have to see how that happens and how it will affect the campaign for Kamala Harris and for Donald Trump, but for now we're going to be updating the map based on all the current polling averages. Starting off with all the solid states for blue, let's just fill in all the states that we know are going to be solidly blue. That means all these states over here. And that's basically it. There aren't that many other solid states. I'll also include Illinois for the first solid. Now, for all the Republican states, they're going to be solidly for Trump. That includes all the Midwestern states. North Dakota, South Dakota, Kansas. And we'll also fill out all the ones in the Southeast as well. All of these states are going to be solidly for Trump. Indiana and West Virginia. And that also includes all of Nebraska except the 2nd District, which will be likely for the Democrats. Or, sorry, lean towards the Democrats. And from here, we're going to start filling out the map regularly. So let's start with Oregon. So in Oregon, we see that Harris has a 5% lead. It's certainly not much. We can see, compared to 2020 and 2016, that is not nowhere near as good as either one of those. 2020 and 2016, the percentage is a lot higher. So it's not looking anywhere near as good for Kamala Harris, but either way, we will still put it in the likely for her. Now let's go to Washington. Not much from Washington, but as you can see here, based off what we have, it will also be likely for Kamala Harris as well, based on what we have. Now going from there, let's go to Nevada. Nevada, as we can see here, will be going towards Trump by a small margin, which is a big deal because compared to 2020 and 2016, we can see that they both went to the Democrats by the same exact margin. So it's the fact that it's supposed to go to Trump now is actually pretty big. And it's also big news because we just got through the Democratic National Convention, which speaking of the Democratic National Convention, now that both parties have had their national convention, now we should start getting the real polls. Like these are the polls that are really gonna give us a good idea of how this election's gonna go. So we'll hopefully get to see a lot more accurate polls and a lot more polls in general that will actually be, that will give us a good idea of how this election is going to go. Because that's usually how it works, both parties have their national convention, and only then do you start getting the real polls, if that makes any sense. The real polls start coming in now. So now let's just go to Arizona, the next state over. And once again, very close state. This has not changed at all since my last video, 0.2%. You see here just how close it is. Even Harris goes ahead right there. Again, you can just see how close it is. It is extremely close. But nothing has changed since the last video, so we will leave it as lean Republican. Oh, sorry. What happened here? Colorado is not going to go to Trump. No, I'm not even going to look at it. No, I know that's going to be likely Democratic, and so will New Mexico. Yeah, I must have accidentally clicked on Colorado by accident. That will go to the Democrat, and so will New Mexico by likely margins. Let's go to Texas. Texas, as we can see here, is going to be solidly for Trump. There's just no real way that Harris is going to have any chance whatsoever in Texas. Both elections in the previous elections, both in 2016 and 2020, you can see even then it was closer than it is now. So Trump has expanded his lead. It will be a solidly red state. There's really just no way that Harris has any hope of winning that state. Let's go to Georgia. Georgia, again, super close state, highly important state, and it's one of the battleground states. It is only decided by 1% as of right now. It is going to go to Trump by currently just 1%. That is the current prediction based off the polling averages, which is a big deal, especially because the New York Times has Trump up by 4, which again, it's a strange thing for the New York Times to do because they are usually known for overestimating Democrats. So we'll have to see what really is going to happen here. And I'm personally interested to see how RFK dropping out is going to change the election, and how the Democratic National Convention is going to change this election. Because a big thing going on recently is that there has not been much talk about Trump. In fact, just today with RFK dropping out, that is the first time we've had some real talk about Trump in a while, and that makes sense. The Democratic National when their national convention is going on, that's their moment. Like that's supposed to be like the Democratic moment right there. You know, it was the same thing when Trump had his national convention, when the Republicans had their national convention. All you heard about was Trump, 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 which makes sense. You know, that's their moment in the sun, if that makes any sense. So we haven't heard much about Trump in the last few days. But now this happens, and now there's obviously a lot of talk about Trump, is when with RFK dropping out. Let's just get through Hawaii and Alaska. Hawaii is going to be solidly blue, and Alaska will be solidly red. No change there. All right, let's go to Iowa. Iowa is going to be a solidly red state. No change there whatsoever. That's not a surprise at all. It has become a very Republican state, even though it was quite competitive in the past. It simply just is not anymore. Same with Ohio. Ohio is going to be a solidly red state. Donald Trump's running mate, pardon me, Donald Trump's running mate, J.D. Vance, comes from Ohio. Therefore, there's really no chance for any competition in Ohio. It's going to go Republican no matter what. Let's go to Minnesota. And as we can see here in Minnesota, it is not looking too good for Trump in Minnesota. It is pretty heavily leaning towards Harris. You can see it actually was pretty close before. Minnesota has not gone Republican in a very long time. I believe not since the 1970s. I'm not quite sure which election in the 1970s, but it hasn't gone Republican since the 1970s at least. So you can see it's not close. There's really no chance that Trump has any hope of winning Minnesota, although there is some possibilities. Minnesota, I believe, temporarily was expected to go to Trump when Biden was still in the race. After he dropped out, we can see obviously Harris picked it up. But so really there's no chance that Trump is going to win the state. So you never know what could happen, but it's very likely going to go to Harris. Not much is going to happen there. Let's go to Wisconsin now. All right, here in Wisconsin, this is one of the key battleground states, highly important, very much so needed by both sides to win this election. See, it's very close with Harris only up by 1%. That could easily change. It could easily get more. It could easily switch to Trump. We never know. But as of right now, based on what we have, this is still the same as last time. But the real polls are going to start coming in now that the Democratic National Convention is over. So we're going to see what happens now. But as of right now, it is still the same. It has not changed. Harris is up by 1%. So it will be lean Democratic. All right, now on to Michigan. All right, here in Michigan, you can see it has not changed at all either. It's still 2% up for Harris. That could easily change as well. We'll have to see what happens, but for now, we were going to be leaving it as lean Democratic as well. Let's go to Pennsylvania, the most important state, definitely the deciding state in this election. And really, the reason why Pennsylvania, in fact, no, we're going to do Pennsylvania last, because I'm going to show you part of the reason why Pennsylvania is so important. It's not just important because it's, one of the key states. There's a specific reason why it's also important. So let's go to New York, which is going to be likely, which is shocking, because Kamala Harris will be the first president, will be the first Democratic nominee to not win New York by a solid margin, which is it's not good. Not a good sign for her popularity, especially in a state that has been so blue for so long. Vermont will also be likely. Maine will also be blue. There we go. That's what the state should look like. New Hampshire will be lean Democratic. Very close in that state. But otherwise, it will still go to Harris. Let's go to North Carolina. That is also an extremely important state. Here in North Carolina, we got some changes. We have a new poll that came out that has Harris up by 1%. That has brought Trump's lead down to 0.9 overall. The state is starting to trend left. We could see the polling average switch, just having this state go to Harris, which would be a big blow to Trump. However, at the same time, we did see in both previous elections, in 2016 and 2020, the state was supposed to go to the Democrats in both elections. However, at the end of the day, it still went to Trump by a considerable margin. So we'll have to see what actually happens on election night itself. But we'll continue to update the map based off the polling averages, and sometimes we'll even do the nose polls and stuff like that. But election night it won't be quite the same. We'll see what happens, but because in both previous elections, this state was supposed to go Democratic, but it simply did not. So we'll just have to see what happens. But as of right now, Trump's lead is lessening, but he still remains ahead, nevertheless. So we will be putting this state as lean Republican. Let's go to Virginia. In Virginia, we can see Harris maintains this small but consistent lead. It is not much. It is only 4%, but nevertheless, that is still enough to give her the win for this state. However, we can see, compared to previous elections, it's not as good. But we'll see what actually happens, because it is not that much, but it is enough to win the state, which is a big deal. Virginia is a very, very hotly contested state, and it is a very important state to win this election. So let's see what happens. But for right now, the state will be lean Democratic. All right, on to Florida. All right, and as previously stated, we can see here, Florida has become such a strongly Republican state. There's just really no competition. Florida will definitely go to Trump by a strong margin. There's really no competition. Harris shouldn't even campaign here. There's really no way she's going to win. Even though 2016 was really the start of it, because it was supposed to go to Clinton in 2016, but ever since then it's gone more and more Republican, so there's really just no way. Florida will definitely be going to Trump during this election, so we will be putting the state as likely Republican. Now let's go to Pennsylvania, the most important and deciding state in this election. And if I actually, I just want to see something. If I was to, that would give her 270 exactly. Wow, look at that. That is how important Pennsylvania is. So right there, if Harris wins all three of these states, then she basically does win the election. Even if Trump wins Georgia, North Carolina, Arizona, Nevada, Harris would still pull out a victory as long as she can win these three states. That is how insanely important these three states are. But look how close it is. 270 exactly is what she would have. That is how crazily close this election is, or will be, because of these three states specifically. So let's get rid of that. Let's actually see where the state currently lies. Alright, we got a tiny little change here. This is almost comedic how little this changes. You might have remembered how I was hamping on the fact that this state was going to Trump by just 0.1%. Well, guess what? It's 0.2 now. Because we got ourselves a new poll from the 18th to the 19th that has Trump up by 1%. That has expanded Trump's lead by a full 0.1%. He is now up by 0.2, and he is surging like heck. Alright, enough of the jokes. Let's take a look down here. See here, we see how close it is. 0.1, and it goes up to 0.2. That is actually kind of insane, looking at that. It's that close, and it was closer before. We'll have to see what happens, because this is honestly too close to call for sure, but again, it is 0.2% for Trump, so it will be lean Republican, but nevertheless, that's actually kind of insane that it's that close. But that is how intense this election is likely going to be on election night, so brace yourselves, people. But this state will be going to the Republicans, at least as of right now. And that is your election with 287 electoral votes. Trump will win the election with that much. Now let's actually go back a second. Instead of ending the video here, let's go back. And I'm actually going to look at what is the best possible outcome. What is the best possible outcome for both candidates in this election? What is the best they can possibly hope for? Let's start with Harris. Obviously, the most obvious thing that she can obviously hope for, realistically, what she can hope to accomplish, is that she will win the states of Arizona and Georgia. Realistically, the best thing that Harris can hope to do, the absolute best outcome for Harris, is that she wins all these states. That is the best possible outcome. 319 electoral votes. Harris will have to win Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. That is the best possible outcome for Harris. This is the outcome that she can hope. That is the best outcome that she can hope to achieve with what she's got going. There's really no other states. There are no other states she can hope to flip. That's really going to be it. Now for Trump, the best possible outcome for Donald Trump would be basically the opposite. He will have to win Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. However, another state up in the air that he possibly could win is Virginia. This state was actually supposed to go to Trump before Biden dropped out. Before Biden dropped out, this state was predicted to go to Trump. But when he dropped out, it went back to Harris. So it went back to the Democrats. But again, because it temporarily did go to Trump, we'll have to see what happens, because this state did sort of go to Trump for a short time before Biden dropped out. But now that he has dropped out, it went back to the Democrats. So it's going to be close, and we'll have to see what happens. But there's some chance that Trump could win Virginia. But on top of that, he also could win New Hampshire. That was a very close state in 2016 and 2020. Mostly 2016 though. New Hampshire was also the only state up here in the New England area that has a chance of going Republican. And if you really want to squint at it, you could also say Minnesota. That is the this is the absolute best Trump has a chance of doing. Minnesota. That's a real squint. I only somewhat include that because that state, Virginia, Minnesota, and New Hampshire all temporarily went to Donald Trump before Biden dropped out. And now, honestly, that's probably why he dropped out, because Biden literally saw the writing on the wall that he was screwed. Like he was gonna lose that election badly. He dropped out because he knew it was drop out or lose. It was either lose. It was either just drop out and let somebody else who actually has a chance of winning get in there, which is Harris, or just lose. Like he knew he was gonna lose. That's probably why he dropped out. It wasn't any of this bull crap or this sob story that he gave. No, it's because he saw the writing on the wall. The writing on the wall was, you're screwed, buddy. You are not going to win that election. So he dropped out in favor of Harris, who took over, and Harris has a chance of winning. That's the whole story behind it. So Minnesota actually temporarily in the polling averages was going to go to Donald Trump, but then it stopped because he dropped out. Harris came in, and now it's pretty strongly going to Harris. Like we saw 8%, like that's a pretty good margin. That's why I'm really not so sure if there's much of a chance that Trump has a chance, really has any chance at all of Minnesota winning in Minnesota. I don't think it's going to happen. But the absolute best outcome for Donald Trump, this is the best outcome he can hope for right here. Again, more realistically, it's this. This is the best outcome he can hope for, that Donald Trump can hope to achieve right here. And for Harris, we saw was the opposite. It was all these states went to Harris. And that is the best possible outcome for both candidates. And that's the video for today. Make sure you subscribe, hit that bell notification. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.